Teachers at Reddit, who was the worst parent you've ever had to deal with? I had a parent of a kindergartner tell me, in all seriousness, that she was told by their church prophet that my student was sent to lead the world into salvation. Her little girl was the second coming of Christ. Gee. No pressure. Here. Teach the Christ child to read. Plus, she was one of the meanest children I ever taught. My wife is the principal of an expensive Chinese daycare. Like. Really expensive. Every parent drives a BMW or better. A 3-year-old once ran away from the group during a field trip. The teacher, an incredibly mild woman, caught the kid and asked him if he thought what he did was good or bad. She didn't hit him. She didn't even criticize him or make him go in timeout. She just asked him if he thought it was a good thing to do. The mother freaked out. Not because her child nearly went missing. She was furious that any type of discipline whatsoever was administered. My wife was on the phone with her until 2:00 AM while this woman screamed. She has no right to tell my child what to do. Who does she think she is? Double quote. Fortunately, the woman became angry enough that she pulled her kid out a few days later. But that teacher is now so terrified to discipline her students that her class is out of control. I was teaching a sweet 13-year-old girl, who obviously couldn't see the board very well and needed glasses as she was falling behind in class. I called her mother. This is in South London, so imagine a Jade Goody voice. Her mum told me to F off and that I didn't need fricking glasses. My mother didn't need fricking glasses, so she doesn't need any fricking glasses, and hung up. In that situation you just feel for the girl. I've been pretty lucky. Most of my parents have been cool, supportive, and laid back. I did, however, have one mom who stalked me heavily online. Not because she liked me, but because she wanted to constantly talk about her daughter's supposed lack of progress. She sent me friend requests repeatedly. Showed up at the school once while I was teaching to ask me why I didn't accept her request. She somehow got my personal email and began emailing my personal email rather than my work email. She also told her daughter to follow me home one day so she could stop by sometime. Thankfully the daughter told me about this in advance and she didn't do it. It finally ended when the daughter was pulled from the school only after a lawsuit was filed declaring negligence on our part for meeting the student's needs. The daughter was a straight B student who didn't really act out too much and seemed to enjoy school. As a music teacher, I had a mother of a student who would crash choir rehearsal for our Christmas concert and try to demonstrate how she had learned to sing O Holy Night when she had been a student. Not only was her pitch 3 cents short of $1, but it took the principal and custodian to escort her out of the rehearsal room. For their part, the students thought it was a planned comedy. It, however, was not. I'm not a teacher either, but my wife was one in a poor area near Chicago. I've heard 100 horror stories, but the one I always think about is this one. My wife's school was having a really hard time involving their parents and their kids' homework. The kids on average have poor test scores, poor intelligence, low motivation, etc. Common problems today. So what they tried to do was start an after-school program where parents would come in and help their kids with their homework. Kinda defeats the purpose of homework. But whatever. None of the parents showed up. Not surprising, I suppose. Here's where it gets interesting. So they decided they were going to raffle off a ham at each after-school homework event. Amazingly, parents started showing up. I would have to drive with my wife every once in a while to Walmart to buy a ham, because the parents showed up for a 1 in 500 chance to win a ham. They wouldn't come in for their kids, but they'd come in for a freaking chance at ham. Blows my mind to this day. I just got back from an internship at a German gymnasium, high school directed towards kids who would normally go to college after. This school was also a boarding school and one of the kids is a complete twat waffle. He steals and drinks and bullies everyone else, then plays dumb as if he didn't know what was up. His mother is probably the biggest problem parent I had to deal with at the school. But I was an intern, so the real teachers had to deal with way worse, I believe. His mother ignores everything bad we told her about her kid. He is a saint who can do no wrong to her. And he's too fragile to ride the train home, so every other weekend on holidays she drives across Germany to pick him up. He got caught stealing from 3 other kids that lived next door to him. But his mom always gives some bullshit excuse like, oh, he's under so much pressure. You all just blame him for everything. Meanwhile, Dickless is growing up to have no future because he refuses to participate in school and can't stop acting out. There is probably a problem here that needs treatment, but I am a college student and those teachers are way overworked as it is. Local drug kingpin, unconvicted. Knew exactly how much he was legally allowed to mentally and physically abuse his daughter. I got nowhere with social services. Probably murdered her mother. Never indicted. No witnesses. Sorry for the terseness, but I hate thinking about it. Not the worst, but definitely up there with the stupidest. Currently dealing with a parent who thought that I taught their kid about jihad. We had holidays around the world before our winter break. Each teacher took a holiday and explained it through activities, videos, music, food, etc. I chose Diwali and decorated my room in lights. Had a fun writing coloring activity and a child-friendly video about the holiday. The student then goes home and tells the parent that I was teaching about killing and about a religion that started with a J. The parents questioned their child to the point of him crying. I asked him about it and he said that they wouldn't let him leave it alone, and he ended up crying for a while about it. The parents said they knew it wasn't the Jewish religion, so then it had to be jihad. What? Jihad? That's a religion. And if it was a religion, why would I be teaching that to my elementary classroom? Seriously. Facepalm. The best is that the parents CC'd my boss on the email without talking to me at all about it. My boss usually falls on the side of his teachers, so I'm not worried about that, but I just couldn't believe a well-educated adult thought that jihad was a religion. And she asked her husband and he agreed it had to be jihad as well. If that is the mindset going in that child's home, they have a lot to overcome. Not a teacher. But I had a friend who was a preschool teacher. She had a kid that told her she hated seatbelts and won't wear it on the bus. Friend spoke to mother about it. The mother said she screams and refuses to wear it in the car. So she just gave up. The mother was speeding to get to the hospital on a rainy day. Kid in the backseat jumping around. She hit water and skidded into a tree and the child was ejected. Died on impact. I'm a teacher in Korea and Korean mothers are known for being super involved in their kids' educations. And really over the top. To the point where there are classes for kids like mommy and me type of thing where moms sit in class with the kids. Seemingly so they have first-hand experience in class to complain about the teacher's accent, appearance, intellect, attention per student. One of my classes is only 2 students. A boy and a girl, and the boy always bullies the girl. A few weeks ago he threw her water bottle in the trash and she was upset about it. OBV. His mom called the school and started complaining about how the girl always bothers him and that she is affecting his learning and always starts any tiffs they have in class. Which is totally not true. He is 100% the instigator, but pretty much because students pay our salaries as Hagwons. After school programs, private English schools get no funding from the Korean government. Us teachers just kind of have to sit there and take it. However, the Korean teachers take the brunt of this and foreign teachers are just here to practice English as glorified babysitters and don't deal with parents directly. However, in this incident I was involved because all of the teachers who dealt with the kids were asked to comment on their mutual treatment. Not a teacher, but a parent. So you interact with a lot of teachers. I can tell you that the parent who can see no flaws in their child and can't accept the fact that the kid behaves differently when they are not around are a pox to the school system. Listen, lady. Ethan, Logan, Dylan, Tyler, Aiden or Jackson are mean little fuckers that don't listen, and I'm guessing it's partially your fault. Double quote. Currently doing illegal private tutoring in Korea as an ESL teacher. The worst parent I've dealt with so far are the family that I currently work with. While the mother and father are easily one of the sweetest and nicest people I've met. They're extremely wealthy and tend to spoil the shit out of their 2 elementary kids. They have a really fat little 5-year-old boy that is the most spoiled in the universe. This chubba-hubs throws tantrums every day during lessons. Hits and screams at his parents and grandparents. Cries over everything. And eats a ton of food every day. And his parents just smile and laugh over all of it. They've never disciplined him. They've never told him no. This sh gets a new toy every week. On demand. This little fucker can't stand doing anything he doesn't want or he'll run to his parents crying. I used to teach this little boy who was so disruptive would shout and pinch the other children in the class. And when I complained to his parents they said that he was a little angel at home and were shocked that I was saying that their boy was disruptive. They even said they thought I had the wrong child's parents in. I had the worst helicopter parent. Little Timmy was doing poorly so I set up a meeting with his mom over the phone. And she was not pleased with me at all. The day of the meeting she comes in an hour early with class still in session. As she came through the door her rota clipped the frame sending her whirling into the first row. Killing 4 of my students. The top rota flew apart taking out a few more kids and putting a big hole in the wall. I'm not a teacher. But when I was in elementary school I was a rather fat and unpopular kid. On one occasion I had a mother on a field trip look me up and down and turn to a group of kids who often made fun of me and tell them something that made them laugh. On a second occasion I had a mother prevent me from going to a classmate's birthday party that most of my 4th grade class went to only to find out later that she made fun of me as being a pig at the party from other classmates. I mean I get that I was the fat unpopular kid. But shouldn't those mothers have been acting their age? They were in their 30s and 40s. I worked at a school for blind and visually impaired kids. This woman had a daughter that was blind and mentally delayed but otherwise healthy. They were referred to our school when the daughter was in her mid-teens. Her mother did so much for this girl that she considered completely helpless. She was not, that her legs atrophied and she couldn't stand on her own. We dealt with our share of nightmare parents of various stripes from the completely uninvolved to control freaks who knew every bureaucratic trick to pull to get what they wanted but this one. The one that cared so much for her daughter that she crippled her even further. Is the one I think back to the most often. It was a constant battle to get her to back off and let her daughter learn to be an independent person. I had the parents of a Muslim student demand to me that their son be excused while my student teacher taught lessons to the class because she is a woman and no son of theirs would be taught by a woman. I told them that's fine. But he's still responsible for the materials he missed. This would be every class over a 3-week period. They freaked out. Called me a racist and went to the principal over my head who promptly told them that their son would be responsible for any material he missed. A parent created an extremely extensive treatise on how the traditional methods of grading should be scrapped. They ended up emailing it to every staff member in the school. They did not, however, ever address the fact that their child did not turn in a single homework assignment between December and June. I was teaching high school in the South Bronx at the time. A student of mine had just assaulted another and I had to physically restrain him until school security showed up. As I held him back, and he wasn't a small kid, he called the dean a fucking sea bitch. Obviously. We had to call his mom in. The first thing she said when we sat down was, "How did you all get my number? I thought I gave you a fake one." She proceeded to give no fucks about the fact that her son was on the verge of expulsion. He didn't come back to school the following year. This is easy. This was over 35 years ago. I once had twin girls in my sophomore general business class. They were nice girls. Didn't talk much. It didn't take me long to realize that they were struggling. They never completed any quizzes or tests. Just returned the papers blank. No homework. I tried contacting the parents. Couldn't reach them. Talked to the principal. The counselor. The social worker. No luck. Finally I went to the house. The girls were there alone. Said their mother was at the store. I stopped back at the house a couple of times later in the week. Still nothing. Eventually the girls didn't show up in class and the principal said they had left school. I never met this parent. But she was definitely the worst one I ever had to deal with. I had a parent call me because I took away her daughter's iPad. She was 8 and telling the other students that if they didn't own an iPad it's because either their parents are poor or didn't love them. The mom came in and before she meeting could get underway, her phone rang. She didn't excuse herself and began having a business meeting right in front of me. She even got out her iPad to take notes with her super long fingernails tapping on the glass. When she was done, she thanked me for everything and left. Apparently at one teacher's retirement speeches he recalled a parent he had to call multiple times to explain their son's poor behavior. The parent responded, "I don't call you when he doesn't clean his room." My grandmother has been an English teacher for many years at the high school and college level. While teaching high school English she was contacted by a parent that complained that her child didn't feel comfortable that a Confederate flag was on display in the classroom. Needless to say it was an English flag that was on display. I toughed first grade. One of my students stole another student's juice during lunch. So I wrote a note home to his mom to let her know. She wrote "liar" on the note and returned it to me the next day. So I called her. She then screamed at me that I and my assistant principal were bitches who were making up lies about her angel. I don't have time to pee most days. But this woman thinks I have time to invent stupid lies about her terrible kid. Then she decided she was done talking and sent her baby daddy to kick my ass. This woman sent a grown man to an elementary school at 9:30 on a Tuesday to assault a teacher. I had to take my class to another teacher's room and all of the first class teachers had to keep their doors locked because her son stole another kid's juice. WTF. Well, I am not teacher. But my girlfriend is teaching French and Czech language on one lyceum with higher class students, kids of politicians, actors etc. And one day, they had an issue of cyberbullying. One of the kids was sending messages over Facebook with sexual proposals, from oral sex request, to lying threats. Well, the girls were scared, printed the conversation and brought it to school. When the parents were invited, they protected the kid by saying that the conversation is faked and that they will call their lawyer if this issue is not immediately stopped. Also, they were sponsors of the school, so that makes it even harder. But in the end, they gave him some official warning and bad evolution of behavior. Still, kids of rich assholes are assholes. I was a year out of grad school and teaching college freshmen for the first time. I had this one parent who fought all his son's battles. He was outraged I gave his son a B on a paper. He actually came to my office and argued with me. He told me he had a PhD and was smarter than me. Once, the kid misspelled my name on a paper's header, and the father insisted his spelling of my name was correct. Here's one that I think you'll like. My uncle. Incredible guy. One of the smartest men I've ever come across. Studied on scholarship at Oxford and got honours but never had the opportunity beyond that to reach his potential and worked at a state-funded school in one of Australia's dodgiest towns. His history class was full of kids in gangs and kids who'd been in juvie. One day some kid just cracked. Started screaming and swearing and when my uncle told him to pipe down he pulled a knife and lunged at him. Just to put it in some context, my uncle had always wanted to go to Vietnam as a kid and had taught himself jiu-jitsu and become a ridiculously good shot with his mail order make yourself Swedish assault rifles. So this kid lunges at him and he just grabs his wrist and disarms him and holds him until the cops come. When the mother turns up with the principal and as my uncle fired for attacking her son, it was pretty much a downward spiral from then on for him. Which is really sad considering his capacity. I am a new teacher, so not a huge well to draw from. But we had a parent-teacher conference this year with the parent of a kid who was and is failing abysmally. In that meeting, the father of the student said that he knows exactly what us teachers are dealing with and going through, because he took education classes at a community college so he could learn what teachers learn. I looked at a co-worker of mine in the meeting and had to hold back a laugh. The way he said it was so condescending it was almost funny. That was 4 months ago. And the student hasn't improved and the dad won't answer emails. I'm a lifeguard, so there are a lot of rules I have to follow to actually keep my job. This little boy cut his foot on a seashell and only required a band-aid, so I patched him up and went on with my day. 5 minutes later his mother comes over, literally dragging the kid through the sand, and cursed me out for putting a band-aid on him without telling her. Proceeded to call my boss and curse him out as well. TLDR. Mom's a psycho. I'm not a teacher, but my mother is. One day one of the parents had to come to school to discuss why the kid was missing and just some other boring stuff. After that my mother asked mother to sign a paper. Can't remember what was it about. And mother went on and wrote mama with capital letters. That's it. PS. Mama equals mother in my language. I volunteer in a 2nd grade classroom. I was grading a paper and one of the students had written he was thinking suicide. I showed the paper to the teacher. She reported it and spoke with the student. He said it was lyrics to a song but became upset when asked. She called his father to let him know she was concerned and he laughed. We're pretty sure they're not lyrics to a song, but we let the dad know that's what he had said and that we were concerned. Seriously hope they take it seriously.